Okay, looks like we got our live stream running, and it's a nice cold day here in Israel. My name's Moshe, and I'm coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. You may have heard of the Galilee in your Bible about a million times. So today's the 30th of January. It's 8:14 in the morning. And we're going to start doing War Room now because we're very close to the war with Iran. And it's going to be more than just Iran, you watch. Let me make sure our live stream is good. To the war with Iran. And it's going to be more than just Iran, you watch. Okay, I'm going to put a post up in the chat very quickly, and then we'll move forward. Almost done, guys. It appears that the negotiations with about 5 countries trying to calm Trump down and Iran down have failed. So I would say the negotiations have, across the board, failed. Qatar, Egypt, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and I believe the UAE were all trying to get the thing to simmer down, and it failed. I mean, we could always say, oh, it just hasn't succeeded yet, but that's a little stupid to talk like that. That's not, rather intelligent. Let me pin this and we'll get going. Okay. Pinned it is. Let me shut the sound off here. And done. Okay, being a Bible-believing site, Old and New Testament, I'm going to do some praise, and if you want to join in, you can. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 All right. So this is going to be predominantly focused on the conflict between Iran and America and the whole Middle East, basically. The only people that Iran doesn't want to attack would be the Houthis in Yemen, the Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Hamas in Gaza, and the Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria and Iraq. Everybody else is fair game, including Oman, which really, they're to the right or the east of UAE, and they're were more or less, in my mind, pro-Iran and didn't do them much good. Iran's idea of pro-Iran is you get your missiles ready and you tell America that you're going to attack them if they attack Iran. If you're not going to do that, well, they peg you as a conspirator with America. All right. So what's important to remember from yesterday is that Iran is completely prepared to close the Persian Gulf. They have missiles on the shore by the Straits of Hormuz. All kinds of missiles, okay? Lots of missiles, okay? They got all kinds of drones on the shore. You know, they got thousands of drones. They got 4 or more submarines in the area submerged. They have 1,500 go-fast boats floating around. Most of them are docked up, but they got some out there. They're all configured differently. They got, heavy guns like 50 cal, 20 millimeter, 25 millimeter. They got anti-ship missiles installed on these. On some of them, they got torpedoes. They got mortars on some. And these go fast. They're small. They're like 50 to 70 feet. And they can always carry shoulder-fired rockets and missiles. Would the soldiers just shoot them standing up or sitting down in the boat? So they could shoot anti-tank missiles, shoulder-fired. And if it's going to go through a tank, what's it going to do to a ship, right? So it's going to blow the ship up. Iran even has missiles with a time delay. So they're like armor piercing. They'll go through the ship, and then they'll blow up. They've got nautical mines ready to go on ships and in the submarines. Guys, I didn't even get into their, they have 3 or so regular real destroyers, maybe 4, not many. They wouldn't last in a fight with the Americans. They'd shred them. The Americans would shred it, but they still got them. And they have a bunch of civilian vessels that have been disguised container ships where the containers actually launch missiles. And they've converted container ships to what they call drone carriers, where they have a ramp that goes up like this, like an aircraft carrier ramp. And they could launch all sorts of drones off of that ramp, and they carry hundreds of them in the boat. Okay? And their Congress has authorized the closing of the Straits of Hormuz, the Persian Gulf, back in June. And to activate it, all it takes is Khomeini. Now, I hope you don't mind if we refer to him as Ayatollah Shmuckmani. All he has to do is sign something and push a button, and that's it. They close the straits. Oil prices will rise like crazy. Nobody knows how high oil prices will go. Nobody. And it doesn't stop with the Persian Gulf, okay? Because as soon as they close the Persian Gulf, the Houthis will missile attack any ships in the Red Sea they don't like, which is probably 90, So China's okay, Russia's okay, you know what I mean, that kind of thing. Right? Red Sea has 8.5% of the world's oil, and the Persian Gulf is 20 to 25%. So the high side, which is probably more accurate, really, when I think about it, is 33%. So 1/3 of the world's oil will be shut off. Now, why do I think we're going to have a war? Real soon. Like when? Like tonight? Why tonight? Well, not tonight, Israel time. Tonight, America time, which would also mean that it's nighttime in Europe and Israel. 5 o'clock, or actually maybe 3:30. Why? No, it would be nighttime, I think. They got to have, because they want the stock exchanges closed. Now, there's trading that goes on all the time, but they want the exchanges closed. That's the big trading. They don't want to have to close the exchange. They just want it to be, Friday at 3:30 in the New York Stock Exchange. The schmuck that runs it goes out on a balcony that's about 25, 30 feet over the trading floor, and he rings a buzzer or a bell. I can't remember what it was, a bell. And that's it. You pack up and go home. Everything just shuts right there. No more trades. That's it. If you put something in the system before the bell, it'll finish, and that's it. And you don't get trading again until 9:30. I believe it's 9:30. Monday morning. So that gives the world time to get used to the war, so things don't panic. What they're afraid of is massive price increases or price drops. Mostly price drops. Price drops lead to margin calls. And people can't come up with the margin, they sell it off. And then when they start doing sell-offs, the prices drop even worse. And it gets into a descent that scares them. So when they get into that kind of a free fall, they call it, they like to shut the exchange down, stop trading a day, 2, 3, till they could stabilize things. With Iran, if they shut the trading, it's going to be a long time. All right? So what happened yesterday? Gold was at 5,500, and in a brief period of time during the intraday trading, they dropped gold 10%. That's about $500. And they dropped silver 10%, which was about, $11 or something, This morning, silver was at $112, so the losses on silver were almost nothing. And I'm seeing gold in the mid 5,200s, so it's still down a little. What happened? The elite started rigging the market, manipulating, and they drove the prices down. And their plan was to do what's called accumulation or accumulate. Okay? They run the price down, they buy, then they just sit back and let the price bounce up and wait for a good price spike and liquidate and make a gain. So a, a small elite would buy options controlling something like 25 ounces of gold, 25,000. Okay. And if he could bang it up $500, he makes himself $12.5 million. If he could bang it up 1,000, he makes $25 million. It's practically generational retirement wealth. Not quite, but close. Okay? Generational wealth today would probably be 60, 100 million. That means that you could go out and do whatever you want, and when you kick the bucket, there's going to be tons and tons left to leave to your family. That's generational wealth, okay? And times doesn't allow for that, of course, but we're not talking like them. All right, so they started doing it and it failed. The demand for gold and silver was too high. They couldn't get it down. What they were trying to do was get it below 5,000, like 46, 47, and they couldn't do that. Then they were going to buy and wait for the war to start and to get rid of it, probably at 65, something like that, or 75, whatever. But they didn't want to buy at a 55 high. It scared the little bums. Why? Because it was a little frightening. In case Trump didn't go through with the war. In case Trump made a last-minute peace deal with Iran. They wanted that extra $500 or $700 edge to protect themselves. They were scared. The reason they were scared is they don't know what Trump's going to do. And this tells me that there's a lot of elite that believe Trump is going to war. Okay? And very soon. Days. Now, Trump keeps talking about a big, powerful armada on the way. Where? Nobody has reported seeing such a thing. Nobody. How can you move an armada around the world without any merchant marine people seeing them, other military people seeing them, coming up on radar? How do you do this? I don't know. I think he's lying. I do know the George Bush aircraft carrier group is unaccounted for. They left on January 13th, Norfolk, Virginia, into the Atlantic. We don't know where they are. Now, they could intentionally be hiding. They just stay, far away from the shipping lanes, shut their transponders, and that's it. That would be the George Bush aircraft carrier group, which would be one aircraft carrier and 3 destroyer and missile cruisers. That's it. Okay. Four ships you could hide. I listened to some guy on Telegram with 500,000 subscribers, and he came up with 20-something ships and named them. And I've noticed with this fellow that he makes grievous errors like this and never comes back and tells the people, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. That's Satan-bot behavior. Nothing but there are not anywhere near that. There's 10 ships, counting the Abraham Lincoln, with the 3 destroyers, there's 10 warships in the Middle East from America. That's it. And that's counting a destroyer that just popped up. This big armada thing, I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know what he keeps saying it every day. Big, beautiful armada, and I hope we don't have to use it. Where is your armada? Okay. But let me tell you what Trump has done. He has built up a lot of air assets. Oh, yeah. That he's doing. He just brought 2 THAAD missile systems with missiles into the Middle East, and he gave one to Kuwait, and the other one went to Saudi Arabia. And he just brought in an E-11A aircraft to Saudi Arabia. Came out of Europe. Now, when they bring these planes out of Europe or anywhere else, the E-11A, it's wartime, okay? These are very rare, expensive planes that I doubt anybody else has. It allows all the armed forces to coordinate with planes, with boats, with drones, with missile systems, with aircraft, with helicopters, all coordinating. The Army, the Marines, the Navy, and you could plug in other armies, Marines, and Navies and have everything working together. Your drones, your planes, your missile. It's a heavy-duty aircraft. And it's really a potent war tool because you have a lot of chaos in war. And this eliminates a good bunch of chaos because all the powers fighting can load their systems into this one plane and it will coordinate everything. So your effective fighting probably triples. Okay. Now that plane doesn't show up in the Middle East unless war's coming real soon. Now, with negotiations, Iran, it was thought by Israel, might move a little bit on the nuclear facilities, which is no surprise to me, but was stipulating an inflexibility for anything. It wasn't interested in talking about ballistic missiles, nor was it interested in talking about stopping their proxies. Now, their proxies are Iraq is a proxy, okay? There are Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria, lots of them. There are probably many different names. Those are proxies. Hezbollah in Lebanon is a proxy. Lebanon is not a proxy. Hezbollah is a proxy. Hamas in Gaza is a proxy. The Houthis in Yemen is a proxy. Egypt is not a proxy. Turkey's not a proxy. Okay, got the idea? All right. Now, let me explain to you what the Lord showed me about this. What Iran wants to do is build up its ballistic missile system to get hypersonic missiles with a much longer range, like 2,500 miles. And then it can strike most of Europe from Iran. Why? Because Iran needs to continue its reign of terror. It has to be expanded so Trump would leave them alone. They feel that if they can expand their reign of terror into the European Union countries, then they can get the sanctions rescinded, taken off them by threat. When the sanctions are taken off them, then they will really build their military capability higher. They'll try as best they can to go, whatever it is, to America, 4,000 or 5,000 miles with missiles. I don't know how far that is. Let's find out. I've done it before, but I forget it. I don't keep it in my head. What is the distance by air? What is the distance by air, straight line, from Tehran to Washington, D.C.? $6,100 Okay, guys, they're very, very far away from anything like that. I don't think they'll ever have that. No, they're not going to get that. I doubt it exists. All right. But Europe, no problem. And when they start intimidating the countries in Europe, they'll put tremendous pressure on Trump. And this tremendous pressure on Trump will get Trump to relax, and they'll get their sanctions taken off. Now, when they get the sanctions taken off, then they'll enhance their missile programs, their Navy, their Air Force, everything. Okay, hang on, I gotta try to close the sound on this sucker. Let me close and open it and see if I can get it. I think I got it. No, I don't have it. I don't know how. It's not showing me anything to shut the. This YouTube is such junk, I tell you right now. When they changed it, they made it worse. That's all they did was to make it worse. Didn't help anything. such junk. I mean, they should be ashamed to put this out there. Now I got it shut. All right. So moving along, Trump and the European Union realize, or they should realize, this: the European Union are very wartime backwards. They need to realize that Iran is marking time, and they're going to threaten them. Iran says, if you attack us, Trump, we're going to attack all your Middle East military bases, and we'll attack the other oil-producing countries, okay? If Iran gets better missile capability, that comment is, Trump, if you attack us, we're going to attack your military bases in the Middle East and Europe, and we're going to attack your allies in Europe, all the NATO countries and anybody else sympathetic to you. That's what they're going to say. So what is Trump going to do? He's going to say, I don't care, and then what's Europe going to do with Trump? They'll go nuts on him. See? So Trump is trying to get in there and take care of this before it gets that bad. So Trump has a limited amount of time that he could dance with Iran, and then he has to shut them down. And they're working on their missiles day and night. Because what they're going to do is get rid of the sanctions. Once they can hit Europe, they'll do overt missile tests, let everybody know they could hit Europe. It's not a rumor. And then they're going to negotiate to remove all their sanctions. When their sanctions are gone, along comes BRICS. And the end of America's economy, which is the end of America. So Trump can't let that happen. That's why negotiations have failed. Trump wanted an end to the nuclear program, surrender of any nuclear materials. His idea was shutting the nuclear program with explosives. An American military witnessing it. Okay. He wanted an end of all support for the proxies. And he wanted an end to the ballistic missile program. He wanted to restrict the missiles with certain ranges, and that's it, close it off, before they can go further. Now, I don't know what he was going to give them. I don't think he cares about Israel, so he'd probably give them 1,000 miles. Iran might have capability to hit some places in Europe now, but not the juicy good targets, no. So Trump, what's his next move? Well, he's still trying to win a war without fighting a war. So his next move is, he's doing it. He's talking about some fictitious armada that, I have to leave room for it to be real, but day by day it looks less and less real. Okay? So that's failing. And as I've told you, Iran does not scare. You can bring 70 or 80 warships, 6 aircraft carriers, 165,000 soldiers, 400 tanks, 297 planes, 3,000 drones. It doesn't matter. They will only be impressed if they see a demonstration of your willingness to use these weapons against Iran. In other words, you have to attack them. And until you do that, they will not take you seriously. Bombing some fortified places that run nukes is far from anything that's going to get the respect of Iran. Okay. Now, a lot of people are saying that the big weight here is concerning itself with AI. There's 3 types of AI. One is the type we have, where they say this type of AI is not as good as a human. What do we mean? It's not as good as a human in terms of being able to reason logically and grow from experience and study. Okay? What these things, you can't really compare AI to a human. Why? Because AI draws off an unlimited information bank called the internet. And the AI you use, if you ask it for, I want to buy a wool overcoat in Atlanta, Georgia with the best price, what can you give, what can I find, and blah, blah, blah. It'll go out and go through a few sites, but if you were going to buy the AI that you paid $300 a month for, it will go out and not check a few sites. It might check 80 or 90 or something like that, right? And then if you got more of a commercial AI that probably costs $1,000 a month, it would go out and do an immense amount of reference work, Women pick it up. I mean, sorry. So the next level of AI is going to be like a human. In other words, that will allow AI to grow with reasoning and logic beyond anything we've seen so far. It has not yet been attained. People think it could happen almost any day. People try to put an IQ test on AI. You can't. When you take an IQ test, a lot of it is memorization. Okay? And the AI excels at memorization. If you took the history of a current business and you told it what its financials are, what the marketing is, what this is, what the competition is, the personnel issues, and everything like that, and you said, how can we enhance profits? It's just going to plagiarize. It's not going to plagiarize. It's just going to take information that other people inputted into it and use that. Okay. But if it attains the level of a human, the human would be able to think and come up with a different, unique plan. Coming up with a different, unique plan is not something you're going to get out of AI. I believe it can't go there yet. So, if they get this, America punches in all the military parameters of Iran, which would be probably 100 entries and a lot of background, probably 5 or 6 pages. Then it would put all the input into the AI about what America has that it could be deployed immediately against this other entity, and then ask AI to give a plan to defeat Iran. AI can't do that now. It could only give you what other people have said. It can't reason or logic out its own plan. Okay? So the thought is that when you reach the level of AI equal to a human, then it'll make plans for you to defend yourself and attack others that'll be extremely difficult to get around or penetrate. Now, there's the third level of AI that they've not attained either. And that level is they've dreaming that they're going to find a way to not only meet our level of reasonableness and, things like that, but also do the reversal that is better. So that'll cause a lot of layoffs in shipping. It'll just mess everything up if they do that. People are already losing high-tech jobs over AI. Companies that do search engine optimization, in other words, they help your website get positioned first or in the very front of the results when you do a Google search. I don't believe it's possible anymore. I don't know how Google stops it, but AI would. Let's ask it. Can you do search engine optimization for a website in Google effectively? Short answer, yes, very effectively. If you mean strategy, structure, content, and technical guidance, what I can't do is log into Google, your CMS, or build backlinks for you, but I can get you 90% of the way there with a clear, practical SEO system. Well, you get that? So the AI goes and analyzes. Let's say you're looking at warm socks for winter, and it goes into Google and gets the top websites in the search results, the first 10, and analyzes them and tries to find common threads and see how they got there. Then it tells you what to do to get there also. So that ended an era that was, maybe 25, 30 years old for people doing search engine optimization. They killed that industry. The programming industry, writing apps and stuff like that, is about to die. Back to Iran. Let's try it. See what we get. Watch this. What is the best plan of attack for Trump to take against Iran, taking into account their drones, ballistic missiles, go-fast boats, naval mines, submarines, a desire to shut the Persian Gulf? Let's see if it gives me anything. I can't help plan an attack plan. To give technical advice on how to fight Iran, that would be guidance for real-world violence. It'll only lay out non-violent. All right, let's try another AI to see if it gives it to us. I think the other one will. If the other one doesn't, then we'll give up. This thing's running all over the internet looking for a way to do it, to answer my question. I believe it's doing it, but let's wait and see it finish. Oh, did it? It starts off number one: priority, diplomacy, and deterrence. Okay, that's not what we want. Number two: secure sea lanes and counter asymmetrical threats. Focus on protecting the Strait of Hormuz and Persian Gulf through multinational naval patrols, and think countermeasures, deploy littoral combined combat ships, equipped for rapid mine clearance and anti-swarm operations to neutralize Iran's ability to deploy thousands of mines via submarine or small boats, prevents a temporary closure that could disrupt global oil flows. I'll say, use layered defenses against fast boats and drones, position destroyers and cruisers with advanced radar and close-in weapon systems to handle saturation swarms, while integrating unmanned systems for surveillance. Avoid over-reliance on expensive missiles by emphasizing cost-effective tools like directed energy weapons for high-volume threats. Pretty good. Next, neutralize high-threat assets through air and missiles. So that means your planes and missiles attack key assets. Then it goes on, it says manage escalation and post-conflict stability. Oh, that comes later. Didn't give us a tremendous amount of details, but it did get into it. So let me get back where I was. So it looks good, and here's the thing that I keep telling people, and if you talk to anybody that ever fought in a real war, they'll tell you the same thing. Don't think it's ever going to go the way the generals think it's going to go. It's always going to be botched up. There's always going to be something going on that nobody planned for. Netanyahu is still acting like we're not going to get in the war, and I think he's got it down. I don't think Iran will attack us, because if they attack Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, Jordan, Syria, and Saudi, it's unlikely they're going to get any kind of a serious attack back from these people. But they know if they hit Israel, Israel will come back and try to wipe Iran off the map. So it's in their better interest not to go try to hit Israel. If Trump attacks them, they could focus on the American military bases in the other oil countries. But you see, Israel's the sleeping lion that's not attacking them. So why wake the lion up? That's what they're going to think. Let's fight with the other guys, and then we'll worry about Israel later. If we attack Israel now, we get no substance in the war. It doesn't help us fight Trump, and it just brings more destruction on us. So it's not smart. So it's probably not going to happen. We have a prayer request for SB, Sierra Bravo, SB, Sierra Bravo. I'll put the prayer out, and you guys can agree. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I pray that SB gets that asset sold at a good price quickly. So, my Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I pray that SB gets that asset sold at a good price quickly. And I thank you for that, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And I pray that SB does also not get cheated out of any money. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And if you would, and you're a believer, this is just for believers, you can agree with that. Okay, and that is a good thing to agree. That's like keys to the kingdom. All right. The United States and 40 partner countries converged in Prague to discuss the implementation of reimposed UNSCRs, I think they're sanctions, against Iran, focusing on its nuclear and ballistic missile activities. Okay. So that's Trump trying to spread, the defense of other countries over himself to avoid impeachment and bad press and things like that. Okay. So another warship did enter the Middle East, I think yesterday, the USS Delbert Black, a destroyer currently in theater. Trump keeps bringing more and more reinforcements into the area, but they're particularly air assets. There's not, he's talking about an armada, but we ain't seeing it. And Trump talks trash or lies a lot. So I don't know. Yeah. A few days ago, he publicly posted that the Iron Dome was not invented by Israel. It was made by America when we gave it to them as a gift. And Netanyahu disagreed, and then, that's not a good thing. So, United States Air Force F-35A fighters previously was staged in Puerto Rico. I think it's about 12. that they was staged in Puerto Rico over this Maduro Venezuela problem, but now the planes yesterday, that means they probably got there. So they were en route to Spain yesterday, okay, from Puerto Rico. And then when they get to Spain, they're probably going to use refueling tankers and come to the Middle East, where, Jordan maybe, Diego Garcia, Qatar, those are the likely suspects. So in support of these movements, we're going to see KC-45A refueling tankers. When are they going to be here? Could be today. They're going to be constantly moving stuff in. The war could start and it could go, and they'll be moving stuff every day as long as the war's going on, So you got to look at it that way. So the amount of air assets coming into the Middle East is beginning to get impressive, I'll tell you that. So Trump intends to predominantly proceed with air attacking. But, that's subject to change if this armada ever shows up. But how do you hide an armada? One of the things they say now about war, going back probably 25 years or something, is there are no secrets. You can monitor radio broadcasts. You got GPS. You got drones watching. There's a million things you could look for. You find out. The only thing that Trump could be doing, let's say he sent an armada of 12 submarines, or he'd never do that, but let's say he did, right? I mean, that would scare the daylights out of Iran. If you wanted to scare Iran, you show 12 submarines pop up near Diego Garcia. Each of them can shoot 16 missiles and reload. They get up to about 80 shots each, and then they just get more missiles, and it goes all over again. And these missiles are shot 40 feet under the surface, so Iran can't really retaliate or do anything. And boy, that would scare him. Maybe he's going to do that. If he does, I take my hat off to him. Now it's a pretty wild stunt. I wouldn't literally take my hat off to him because that would be greeting him, but I say it as a figure of speech. And then how long would it take from Spain for an airplane to get, let's say, to Israel from Spain? 4.5 hours is my guess. See, it's not a big deal. They don't even need a refueling tanker, probably. Well, they might. No, they probably do. So they might have been refueling them over the Atlantic, too. Probably were. Let's see what else we got. Associated Press reports Iran has issued a warning that it will conduct a live fire exercise next week in the Strait of Hormuz. Well, that live fire exercise may turn into closing the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, that could be the case. I mean, you got to take that into account. That's a possible. Really, you have to. You have to, because of the nature of those idiots, Ayatollah Shmuckmani and the crew. Now, they just sent a very high-ranking official to Moscow, the Iranians did. They have a special plane that made out of an Airbus, a big Airbus, and they only carry the brass on that, and it went to Moscow. It's probably back or on its way back, or I don't know, something like that. Now we go to Havana, Cuba, which lost their ticket for oil from Venezuela. That's gone. They're telling the people that the country So what is Cuba going to do? Well, go back to 1959, the Cuban Missile Crisis. Russia went over there with some ships with missiles and wanted to install missiles in Cuba. Let's run the distance from Havana to Washington, D.C., shall we? Thinking of Revelation 18. What is the distance, straight line, by air, from Havana to Washington, D.C.? Oh, 1,150 miles. That's definitely within range of missiles coming out of Russia and China, I would think. So that could happen. So Cuba's telling their people prepare for war. So China and Russia routinely go to Cuba. Now there's a part of Cuba called Gitmo, Guantanamo Bay, that we got, what are they, Marines running around over there, and we got some Supermax kind of prison or something cooking over there as well. So, what if missiles are already there? Now, that's if they want to hit Washington, D.C., which is the target of choice. But if they want to hit Miami, all they need is crap missiles. Not a Katusha, not a real piece of junk. You need something that's a real missile, but you're looking probably at a 90, 100-mile trip. That's not much. And if you shot a not hypersonic missile, like a cruise speed missile or something like that, I don't know, but you're going to get better than a cruise speed. You're probably going to run, maybe it'll take you 10 minutes to land the missile, maybe less. So how do you do an alert? See, does Miami have, or any part in America, do they have a lot of iron domes and iron beams and David slings and arrow twos and SADs and Patriots? No. No, that stuff might be applicable to government installations of the Fed, like the White House and stuff like that. And it might be applicable to very few other things, but they don't have that to protect the people. Military bases that they would protect. And people don't have bomb shelters like Israel, so the devastation and damage would be scary. What happens to Cuba if they do shoot missiles at America? What would Trump do? Either he'd bomb Cuba into oblivion, but he's not that way. He's going to be thinking like Meyer Lansky and the other guys did before Castro. And he's going to be thinking Trump Towers and Casino in Cuba. See, that's a whole different critter than putting it in Gaza because it's so close to America, but yet so far from Europe, yet so close to South America. It's a big schlep for somebody to go from North, Central, or South America to go to Gaza. But it's a very easy schlep for them to go to Cuba. Okay? Cuba is also warm all year round. It really doesn't have any kind of a winter to make you interested. And what does Cuba have that it's good for? Well, not a lot. The Cuban coffee is magnifique. Their rum, I don't use it. It's supposed to be good. And their cigars are supposed to be good. They're not really that good. The Dominican cigars are better. Cuba's riding on a reputation it had before Castro. Their cigars were many, many, many decades old. They had the seed. They were back in the 1800s for sure. They had the seeds perfect. They were seasoning the seeds. They knew everything. They knew how the land behaved. They knew how to water it and everything. And they got those cigars to be perfection over many, many, many years. And so Castro was smoking Cuban cigars. Cuban cigars before the 1959 were pretty cheap. I used to go for my stamp and coin collections. I used to go to the newsstand where they sold cigars and ask them for cigar boxes, and they knew my face, and they would give them to me. Here, kid. The cigar boxes were made out of wood with paper and stuff, so I used to get Cuban cigar boxes. And if they were selling them in a corner newsstand, they were probably maybe they were 5 cents to 30 cents or something like that a cigar. Today they sell them for hundreds of. A cigar can be $100 or $200 per cigar. A cigar, even more. Cuba makes junkie cigars for the common people that live in Cuba. That's probably the junkie tobacco that they can't use in the good cigars. The other thing, Cuba makes 3 levels of Cuban cigars. One level of Cuban cigars are the, what would you call them? Imperfections, okay? they're not exportable. They came out bad. So they sell those inside Cuba to the people. The tourists generally aren't going to get their hands on those. And they sell them at a reasonable price so the tourists could buy it. But it could be that the cigar is going to fall apart. It could be the cigar is going to keep burning out, going out, a lot of problems, Then they got the run-of-the-mill cigars. These have passed the inspection, but they're not the best tobacco. They're not the best filler. They're not the best wrap. They didn't, and they sell these around the world to second grade, like they'll sell them in Mexico or Nigeria, Nicaragua, or Belize or something like that, or Nassau maybe. And then probably not Nassau. Then they have the first tier. These are the good ones that they want to get the big money for. Those go to Switzerland, Hong Kong, probably go to Nassau, stuff like that. The only country, they have them all over Israel. The only country that doesn't sell Cuban cigars is America. Canada has them. Mexico has them. And the amount of these Cuban cigars that are counterfeit is massive. You have to go to a very reputable company to buy them. You can't go to, and then a reputable company is buying them directly from Cuba, from the factory, so you got to be careful about that. But the whole thing is absurd, and the only thing that I really think that I would love to get from Cuba is their coffee. I'm telling you, it's strong, but they got a fantastic coffee down there. I don't believe Castro ever messed with it. So what did Castro do to mess with the cigars? Somebody got Castro on an anti-tobacco kick for a number of years, okay? So Castro stopped smoking. Maybe his health went, I don't know. He stopped smoking. Maybe this went on for 3 or 5 years or something like that. And then he got worse. He took tomatoes and crops like that and planted them in the prime land that was used for tobacco growing for many, many, many years. So he ruined the soil that they had developed over many, many years. When you watch an old W.C. Fields movie in 1936 or something like that, he's going to have he'll say a foreign cigar. They probably couldn't say Cuban there, but he was probably getting a Cuban cigar. And they were 3 cents, I mean, they were real cheap. People were buying Cuban cigars. Like cigarettes are made with American tobacco. Well, they really got just a trace of tobacco in it, I would say, and they've got about 80 different chemicals in it. But anyway, cigars don't have chemicals, by the way. They don't put the chemicals in the cigars because these people are spending so much money on these darn things that it would ruin the taste and the flavor. Now, the cheap cigars that, aren't really cigars, they sell those things and they'll have chemicals in them, but the good cigars wouldn't. And before 59, they used to have commercials on television all the time. One was called Muriel. Well, that was the name of the woman. No, I think it was a cigar. Have a Tampa was the other one that was made in Florida. They were trying to reproduce the Cuban stuff because Florida had almost similar weather, but it didn't work. But they made them for years. They had a lot of them, and those cheap things had, they were machine made mostly, and they had chemicals in them to keep them burning and that kind of stuff, But they don't do much with cigars and chemicals. They really don't. It's a cigarette thing. Because cigar guys generally don't inhale it. So there's chemicals would just destroy the flavor for the people and the taste, and it wouldn't get them addicted because they're not inhaling it. So anyway, after he ruined the land, he started smoking cigars again. So he went back and tried to plow up the land and redo it and make it into cigars. And I understand after, well, now you'd have to go into the 1990s, he got the cigar trade back on track. And it maybe took him 20 years to get the soil and everything, or 25 years going again. And then they started it. But by then, what happened when he was coming to power, the families that were in Cuba for many generations that knew how to grow cigars took sacks of seeds, and you're talking about big burlap things of seeds that maybe weigh 150 pounds or something like that. They took loads of these seeds, had all different kinds of seeds, and they took the seeds with them out of Cuba. They also took a lot of their tobacco that they had been saving, prime, special tobacco and special cigars. They got all that stuff out on boats and planes or whatever. And they went to the Dominican Republic, most of them, and the soil there was pretty good. And then they started growing the tobacco plants with their seeds, the Cuban seeds, in the Dominican. And then over time, they got it where they say that it was equal to the Cuban cigar. So Trump would want to save the Cuban cigar as a tradition. He would probably want the rum and the coffee, and they have other agricultural crops they're pretty good with. But, the principle here is this. The mafia guys were down there before 59, and they were building what you would, like Las Vegas, but the land was more spread out. So the concept of Trump could grab Cuba, what he would do, since Guantanamo was already there, he would annex it, I'm sure, like Puerto Rico. Well, Puerto Rico is different, or like the U.S. Virgin Islands or Guam or something like that. And he would put it under an American flag, so you would be able to go back and forth to Cuba without a passport, just the driver's license, basically. The cruise ships would love to go take trips to Cuba. They would love that crap. And the Vegas casino guys and Atlantic City casino guys would love to go down there and get their beachfront property, which they got great beachfront property. They got great weather. They also get great hurricanes. But Castro figured out how to build so the hurricanes wouldn't bother Cuba. So they survived the hurricanes pretty good. You might have to go to high ground, and, Trump could live with that. The Florida Everglades got trouble, and Florida got trouble. The Gulf of America, formerly Gulf of Mexico, those places got trouble. So they would live with it. They would just build the casino hotels real sturdy. What they would have to do is set them back from the beach of Peace. Okay, so you couldn't have a short walk to the water's edge. You'd probably have to run a 300-yard walk to get out of the hotel. And if you want to go in the ocean and on the beach by the ocean, at least 300 yards, probably 400 or 500 yards. Seriously, 400 or 500. Because the most of the damage, having seen it in Florida from the hurricanes, will be right at the edge of the water where the sand is, right over there. You go further in and it's very little damage. And we're talking, even 4 or 5 hurricanes, very little damage. They just have to build it back that distance. They got to be wind resistant, that's all. And they got to have some provision to be able to take a few feet of water, not 20 feet, maybe 3 or 4 feet, 5 feet, So you have steps or something. They know how to do it. So there you go, and what do? You build Trump casinos and resorts, right? You have the same model that you're going to do in Gaza, you do in Cuba. Would it pay to put a Disney World up in Cuba? No. A Universal Studios? No. Some other amusement park that's not anywhere near Florida? Yeah, that would work well. The what is it, Six Flags or something? That might go. Ferrari World might go. Warner Brothers theme park, that might go. Quite a few things could go down there. And would it be attractive for the cruise ships? It would be great for the cruise ships because they would be able to go there and they would be able to have the people go shopping because you'd have piers and places where they put up 200 stores, right? Let's see how long Cuba is. I think it's bigger than Gaza, but let's see. Um, Cuba is how many miles long and wide? Holy moly, I didn't know it was that big. Uh, it's 700 miles long. The average width is 60 to 70 miles. Oh, Trump will definitely take that one over. He could put up, oh, you could have country club resorts over there. Oh, I mean, he could go crazy, you know? And he'd put a military base there too. Got room for a military base for sure. He already got Gitmo. Expand that or something. So you would be able to run cruise ships would go in and out of there. Of course, prophetically, this stuff's not going to be allowed. Time won't allow for it. But Trump doesn't know that. So you'll have a very strong desire for Trump to clip Cuba. And that solves the problem. Then you're not having Russia coming with missiles and China and Iran and, get rid of that whole mess of trouble once and for all. Take it in like Guam or the U.S. Virgin Islands or something like that, right? He'd probably change the name Cuba to something else. I don't know what. He'd figure something out, you know. Nassau, America, or I don't know. Call it American Caribbean. He'll figure something out. And then you put Trump Towers up there. People can buy overpriced condos that look out in the water with beaches and swimming pools. And then you have the Michelin restaurants. You have country clubs. You have discount malls. You have all sorts of amusements and attractions, duty-free zones. You make it a real, what he wants to do with Gaza, you do it in Cuba because Gaza and Cuba are so far away. They're in completely different markets. Okay. Gaza is close to North Africa, very close. It's reasonably close to Europe, and they could come down there to get away from freezing Europe. That would be your big pull in the winter to get down there. And then the summer would be attractive to just about anybody, You go to Gaza and you stay in Gaza, and then you come take a tour for Israel or something like that, It's a lot of good stuff to see in Israel. It would be a very interesting thing. Netanyahu doesn't give too much of a hoot about tourism in Israel. Why? Because tourism is available for low-level Satan bots, like some schlep who owns a hotel or a nice restaurant, okay, or, a bus company or B&B, Airbnbs, stuff like that. And tour guides, and a lot of them aren't even Satan bots. So Satan is really not that interested in that. Where Trump likes, for instance, is an artificial intelligence company in Israel that just sold to Apple for $1.5 billion. And a lot of that money winds up in tax going to the Israeli government so Netanyahu can get his hands on it and do what he wants with that money. You know, which is not going to be build hospitals or reduce cost housing. You know, he'd never want to do that, you know. So there you have it. Uh, the tourism just keeps falling apart here, and Netanyahu doesn't give a hoot about it. Why? He doesn't care. He's only interested in wealthy Satan bots, like Trump. That's why they get along so well. Run-of-the-mill Satan bots don't impress him. So yeah, you definitely could see him going after Cuba. There's no resistance. I mean, what's the Cuban military? Okay, let's take a look. Okay. Brief description of the Cuban military. Oh, he's got like an IRGC, Revolutionary Armed Forces of Cuba, FAR, FAR. Calls it defensive, state-controlled. Active personnel, 50,000. And he's got large reserves and militias. He's got infantry, armor, and artillery. Air Force is small, old MiG fighters, you know, Cold War era stuff. It sounds like limited operational ready, so they're not even flyable. So we can forget about aircraft. Their Navy is patrol boats like Coast Guard cutter, you know, probably not even cutters, just small, you know, 50, 60-foot boats. Yeah, they can't hold up against Trump. Trump would just go in by air and put naval assets out there and try to scare him, and that could work. If it didn't scare him, then they would just they'd probably try to do a snatch with special forces, and then destroy the military by air if they had to. It wouldn't be hard. It would be real easy. Would China and Russia come to their aid? We don't know. But I'll tell you this, whenever you start doing what Trump's doing, you start having wars and stuff with little guys. Don't be so sure you're going to beat them because you don't know who's going to come help the little guy. And you never know what's going to happen. You never know who's got sleeper agents. You never know who was given missiles. You don't know. And that's one of the things Trump is scared about. He doesn't know what he's getting into. But I think he's definitely going to proceed with doing something with Iran, because Iran is definitely, I would say beyond a shadow of a doubt, Iran is definitely intending to shut the Persian Gulf. If anything happens, that gets them scared. Because if they shut the Persian Gulf, they could kind of hold the world at ransom, okay? And that's worth a lot, okay? And if they are allowed to continue, they'll eventually get their ballistic missile program to be able to hit all over Europe, and then they'll be able to blackmail Europe or extort Europe, and then they'll be able to lift the sanctions, get rid of sanctions and stuff like that, and then they're on their way. When they get rid of the sanctions, they're off to the races. Yeah, the Epstein files went away, didn't they? Trump got that suppressed. Maybe this whole thing was to suppress the Epstein files. Remember, we were all excited about the Epstein files, and that went away? Someone writes, I have no idea what I am talking about. Listen, let me explain something to you. Any Tom, Dick, or Harry could go into any chat anywhere and say you have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, does that mean anything? No. Does that mean they know what they're talking about? No. Anybody could say it. It's comical, actually. Okay. So yeah, taking Cuba is something Trump would really like to do, because he's going to say, well, it should have been done before and this and that. But are there missiles given to Cuba by Iran, Russia, North Korea, or China or somebody that could hit into America? Does anybody really know that? I don't know. I doubt it's going to happen. I think if it's bothering Trump will take them over. And Trump is really perturbed at them, so he's probably going to take them over. It's a threat. So Europe listed the IRGC as a terrorist group, and it got Iran mad. Does that mean anything? It means that it amounts to nothing, is what it means. Nothing. Let's see what gold and silver's doing right now. That ought to be interesting. Probably not tremendously different than early this morning, but we'll take a quick peek and see what it's up to. Europe is open, but America's sleeping, so it's weird. And I think Asia's finished trading. Gold's at 51.50, so it went down a little bit. It's in the 51s. And silver went down to 105. So this effort to shove the prices down during the night is still going on. I think they want people to wake up and say, oh, I better get rid of this, it's going down now and this and that. And what they're going to do is accumulate, because it seems they believe there's going to be a war. Does that mean they know that there's going to be a war? No. It means they think they know that there's going to be a war. So they did shove gold down about $400. So, see, they manipulate the market. If you've got enough money, you can manipulate, and they do. And they make a fortune. I've been looking for this armada at Trump's all week, and I can't find it. AI can't find it. Nobody else can find it. It doesn't pop up anywhere on the internet, So I have no choice but to say Trump's lying, or he means this George Bush aircraft carrier, which he's got hiding someplace. Now it's coming out that the UK is not going to fight in the war against Iran. Lovely. They brought 12 Typhoon fighter jets to Qatar, not on behalf of Trump, but on behalf of Qatar. Qatar asked them to, and that's to do takedowns of drones mostly and low speed missiles. That was it. So is Germany and France still in the fight? I don't know. Maybe they just brought uh, Typhoon jets in because they were asked by Qatar or something. I don't know. I haven't heard that, but we don't know. And we'll see. I think the UK may have had jets all the way out in Cyprus, but maybe not. I don't know. So Saudi and Kuwait got the THAAD systems. Well, let me tell you, Israel has a few of those, and they didn't help during the Iran war. It's something like 13 or 17% of the Iranian missiles were penetrating our defenses, and our defenses are Iron Dome. Back then was Iron Dome, Arrow 2, David Sling, and THAAD 4. Now we add in number 5, which is the Iron Beam, the laser defenses. So that brings us more defenses than we used to have. A different level too. So now this is fun. Here you go. We'll have a good time with this one. Then we're going to switch to Hamas in Gaza. Listen to this. Senior Hamas official says, "We never agreed to disarm. No, no one's raised it with us directly. Musa Abu Marzouk, that's the dude's name, I suppose. Boy, imagine trying to pronounce that. You know, you go to school, you're in the first grade, a kid comes over you. What's your name? I'm Steve, I'm Mike. I'm Musa Abdul or Abu Marzouk. You're blah, 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 blah. Okay, says, despite the White House claims that the group didn't talk for a single moment about giving up its weapons, stresses Hamas, the Hamas regime. So they're basically saying Trump was fibbing. So what's going to happen? Nothing. Trump will say, well, you got to disarm anyway, tough knucks. And that's the case of Trump making stuff up again. He's very bad with that. I'm sorry I have to inform you. It's so sad that I have to say that the Iranian currency has collapsed again. And now $1 buys 1.67 million Iranian lira. No, they call it a rial, not a lira, a rial, Iranian rial, sorry. 1.67. So it's approximately 1 2/3 million rial for $1. I don't know how Iran gonna make. You see, it's got to be that the only thing Iran figures they're gonna do is get rid of the sanctions, and then they could bounce back in months. So Trump is crushing them economically. You'd have to be a big dummkopf to think otherwise. Trump is actually crushing them. Um, when you have a currency that's that bad, you're in the league of Zimbabwe, and you're in bad shape. So what they got to do to make it really is get out of the sanctions. If they get rid of the sanctions, they're home free. So what I think they're going to do is they'll wait for Trump to provoke us so they can get the mileage out of Trump attacked first. This will be very important to their plan, I think. I think Trump attacked first. Maybe not so, but maybe. Then comes the closure of the Persian Gulf. Then comes gold, silver, crude oil, everything going up. Okay. Listen, when gold and silver go up and you go to the supermarket, does that affect you? No. When you go to the pump to fill your car up, does that affect you? No. When you go to pay your bills for your electricity, your water, your gas, for your heater in America, your hot water heater, does that affect? No, no, no. But when gas goes up, gasoline, crude oil, does that affect you? Oh, yeah, all over the place. Everything goes up when that happens. Everything. What doesn't go up? Gold and silver. That's about it. And that'll even go up out of fear. So let's see what the price of crude oil is right now. Why not, right? I think it's going to be about 65. But let's take a look. What is the current price right now for a barrel of crude oil? It'll usually give me the Brent and the WTI. $63 to 64 on the regular crude, and the Brent is 68 to 70. It's a little high. Brent's a little high. Not going to make any fearful critters out of people, but it's a little high. Okay. A little bit of fear is going to bump it right to 90, 95, 98, A little fear, not an actual serious closure. All right, so Trump does something to them, bombs something. Look, no matter what people are telling you, there's about a 98% chance that this is going to start with taking out the radar and the anti-aircraft systems that Iran has. Because you don't want to go attack them with those systems up. Okay? Now, they got many ways they could attack them with missiles and with aircraft. Firing missiles. Or bombing, So Trump starts attacking the missiles and the radar. And then Ayatollah pushes his finger and they drop the naval mines in the area of the Straits of Hormuz. They issue a public warning that's going to say there's a NOTAM over the Persian Gulf, and there's the equivalent of a NOTAM for ships over the Persian Gulf. And then they'll say everybody that wants to pass has to. So when the Persian Gulf is closed, how does Trump open it? Honestly, I don't think he does. It would be a laborious thing. He has to send minesweepers in, which they could bring in a few days, a week at most, I guess, and start looking for the naval mines and deactivate them. But if they planted, 50 mines, that's one thing. If they planted 600, you're talking maybe weeks of looking at mines. And do you think Iran would send drones and missiles at the ships, trying to sweep the mines? Yes. I've never heard of a minesweeper that has defenses on it. They have to defend it with another boat. So they might missile launch the minesweepers right off the coast of Iran. They'll be very close, and they'll be able to sink the minesweepers, and that's it. Then it's going to be rough. In the meantime, Trump will keep knocking out the radar, opening up paths. When you knock the radar and the anti-aircraft systems out, you open up what they call as a corridor, where you could go into this corridor and shoot and bomb and missile attack everything in there. So they're going to open up corridors, and they're going to go in there, and they're going to try to get the beachfront on the Persian Gulf cleaned up and get their missiles out of there, so they can't maintain the closure of the Persian Gulf anywhere near they could, because these people have a visual and it's close and stuff like that. It's a pretty confusing situation, guys. It's not so simple. So the only way Iran's going to ever fix themselves for real is to get rid of the sanctions, and they can bring their currency and their economy back. And that's their motive. And to get rid of the sanctions, they got to put a gun to a lot of people's head. And that Persian Gulf does the job just peachy. And they've already set up to pull the trigger on closing the Persian Gulf. It's very, very, very easy to do that. Very easy. Iran really did say they would not agree to limit their nuclear program. That's what they said. Israel said that they believe you could negotiate with them on the nuclear. That's Israel, not Iran. Iran said they will not agree to stop uranium enrichment. They're not turning over any uranium they have already, and none of that. See, Trump is showing fear. Now, when Trump doesn't show fear, we're going to see a different side of Iran. But that different side of Iran is likely going to be an Iran that's holding a knife in its teeth with blood dripping off the knife. They're going to go into attack mode. See, the mullahs and the big shots in Iran, they're going to go underground. And they're going to go deep underground and they're not going to get blown up. And they know that and they're confident. So they were all going to put their big boys in deep tents and the not so big boys. See, what Trump is really doing, I don't like saying this, but it's reality, is he's telling Iran that they can't do what other sovereign countries can do. Um, they're an idiot country because of their use of the proxies and how violent they've become. So they deserve it too. They ask for it because they're out of control. They're nuts. Um, there's no basis to deny them what they want based on treaties. Sanctions are just unilateral stuff Trump creates, and the UN created also, which isn't so unilateral. Um, can this just drag on and it's a stalemate and they just stay the way it is without a war breaking out? Nah, I don't think it will. Iran has to make a move. They got to get rid of the sanctions or they're not going to be in Iran. They know that. There are people saying that attacks against Iranian facilities of various sorts has already happened. It hasn't. That's clickbait, people. These days, you can get onto some social media and just put completely fictitious garbage out there, and they don't do anything about it. What? Oh, hold on a second. Oh, I have a call from suspected spam. So why did this Airbus uh, jet plane go bring some Iranian big shot to Moscow? What's that about? I doubt he was moving to Moscow. I think they're trying to get Trump to do something. I don't know exactly what Trump's going to do. Not Trump, Putin. I don't know what Putin's going to do. The Italian embassy in Tehran has reduced its staff and called on the country's citizens to leave Iran immediately. That's a good war drum. The German embassy in Tehran has also asked citizens to leave Iran immediately within the next few hours. See, we might have an attack tonight when the markets close in America. We might. Um, Yesterday afternoon, the U.S. flew a MC-130J Commando aircraft, whatever that is, from the UK to Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is right by the border of Iran going east. So they're acting very, very serious. This plane was developed for infiltration and exfiltration operations in with U.S. Special Forces. This commando plane, MC-130J. The MC-130J Commando is a specialized multi-mission combat transport and aerial refueling tanker. It's a weird puppy, isn't it? Operated exclusively by the U.S. Air Force Special Operations Command. It's a highly modified variant of the Lockheed Martin C-130J Super Hercules turboprop aircraft, purpose built for clandestine special operations, politically sensitive, hostile, or denied denied access. You can't get into some areas, denied access. Unlike standard C-130Js, it features advanced avionics, terrain following radar, defensive systems, so it could probably has chafe, and it could jam things, and I don't know what else it could do, including AIRCM, infrared countermeasures, and refueling pods for low level night missions, and adverse weather mission. So I believe it can refuel fighter jets escorting it for safety. That's my thinking, is unless those pods are for it to refuel itself so it can fly around the world, then it could actually be both. So that's another sign that they're getting ready. Now, this means to me that, Trump had deployed 5,000 special forces into the area by Iran a few days ago, anyway. So I think that they're there, they're going to use this and run some ops to snatch Khomeini. And they're not going to get Khomeini. Maybe they'll get some other people that are high value targets in there. I don't know. The only way they're going to get Khomeini is if they start blowing up the soldiers, and they're all busted up and they aren't functioning anymore. They're in the battlefield, but they're not very functional. Then the special forces could get in, and you see if Khomeini has a way to get out of his bunker, special forces could get in. If Khomeini put himself in a bunker that was a tomb and he could never get out of it, then special forces might never get in. But if he can get out, they can get in. And rest assured, he can get out. So then it's pretty mandatory. The next move is, if they got the guts, which I think they do, is Iran shuts the Persian Gulf by closing the Straits of Hormuz, and the Houthis shut the Red Sea, and they might do that without attacking the United States. And they'll be banking on the fact that if the United States is not attacked, they may not attack Iran. That could be the case, and that might be what they're banking on. And I don't know. There's a lot of I don't knows here. Let's take a look at social media very quickly and see what's been developing, because this is, this thing is very fluid and it's moving constantly. Trump's plans for Hamas disarming again, fell apart with their saying, "Oh, we never said that." So they probably did it because they see how weak Trump is with Iran. Iran may have told them to do that. They might figure they're going to get away with it because Trump doesn't want any more problems right now. The IDF admits it killed 70,000 people in Gaza, and we believe that Iran killed about that many people in a few days in Iran. Yet they'll criticize us, won't they? Always. Trump is talking again that he wants to talk to Iran. He may have even spoken to Iran, and then he's saying, "I hope I don't have to use my big, beautiful armada." What armada, Trump? We don't know about this thing. um, One in four Israeli children is living below the poverty line. in Israel. That's a piece of garbage, Netanyahu in action. 1 in 4 children. Does he even talk about helping the economy? No. He's garbage, guys. Garbage. So Trump is saying it looks like Hamas will disarm. Witkoff says they'll give up their AK-47s. And what did Hamas say? We never said that. We never got approached. We never said we were giving up on disarming. See what a jerk Trump is, guys? I hope you do. He says stuff repeatedly over and over that's not true. He said that he invented the Iron Dome and all that, and he told Netanyahu to stop saying that Israel invented it. Well, the Iron Dome was made by Raphael Industries, not Trump, and that's in Israel. All right, let me look in social media, see if we got anything going on interesting. I'm very going to be very, very interested when the sun goes down in America. What happens when the markets close? Really, that's what I'm only interested in. Okay. New York Exchange closes at 3:30 p.m. New York time. This is a quote here. Let me read this to you. Uh, with Allah's help, Allah's not around anymore. I mean, he's not real. He never was. Okay. With Allah's help, we will smash the Jews' heads because they are dogs. I want to be a jihadist and kill Jews for Allah and become a martyr. These are the words a Palestinian student in schools run by UNRWA. Looks like about 13, 14 years old. All right. The Pentagon negotiations for a deal with Iran have uh, definitively failed. A significant plan for an attack on Iran has been formulated at the Pentagon. So they have a plan. And I expect when the markets close today, there's a high probability they'll execute. You got to understand they got a problem. China and Russia keep flying big cargo planes in, and they don't know what the heck's in there. But the more of those big cargo planes that fly in, the harder and harder it gets on America, right? Okay. So Trump is sure taking his sweet time anyway. Now, Trump is a very fearful guy, and he might just back out and go home. Don't kid yourself. He'll try to bluff him. He'll try and try and try, and then if he can't bluff him, he'll just go home. He's that way. He's not anybody you want to rely on. You really don't. Uh, Remember, the Americans spent $2 trillion in Afghanistan, and then they pulled out and left billions and billions of dollars of equipment behind. So, the Americans are pretty gutless, and Trump is perhaps worse at that, although Biden and Obama were very bad too. Trump takes business methodology and tries to apply it to war. It's pretty poor way of doing things. Just look at the value of the dollar, how bad it's gotten in America. Look at the prices you're paying for everything in the stores going up. Looking at your standard of living shrink away. Look at Trump telling you that him and Elon Musk were going to audit the Fort Knox, and they went there, and then all of a sudden they stopped talking about it, didn't they? Sure, they did. Because they don't want you to know something. It doesn't mean Fort Knox was empty, but it means that they don't want you to know something. And the Epstein files, how that went away, right? He never released. They were redacting all over the place. That never changed. They just stopped talking about it. American public got cheated again. No, I'm not. I'm not picking up any new stuff. No, so I don't think we had any recent developments since we started the broadcast. So, uh, let me check the live stream, see if anything's cooking here. Well, I don't see anything else. So, what do I suggest? I suggest we watch very closely to see if we're going to have a war tonight or on the weekend. Okay, I'm going to keep looking and see if this mysterious, big, beautiful armada exists, and we'll go from there. All right, so we're in the war room now, which means we're fighting. Hezbollah said they will attack Israel, but with what, I don't know, but they could attack Israel, and we're ready for that. Hamas, I don't think, has anything to attack with. And I think they're afraid to, because if they start attacking with anything they have, how can they go around and sell that we're supposed to, I mean, it just makes them look like warmongers. So Hamas isn't, then they have to disarm. So they're not going to say anything. Syria, I don't expect we're going to have much from. Iraq is definitely going to try to take us on, and Yemen will. And Yemen will try to close the shipping, and your gold and silver are going to go nuts, and oil will go nuts, and prices will go crazy, and it's just prophecy. It's Jeremiah 49 being fulfilled, and Jeremiah 49 comes right in front of Jeremiah 50, which is the end of the daughter of Babylon. So that's it. It's nothing that you should be so shocked about. Let's just watch it. And there's other countries that are going to get it in Jeremiah 49 too, and it too will come to pass. So, all right, I'll say a prayer for all of us. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I pray for me and my wife and all the true believers in their household. I pray that we would have your strength, stamina, endurance, and be happy, healthy, and whole with your healing and recuperative power flowing through all of us and healing as needed. I pray for ourselves and our animals and pets to be safe and secure and happy, healthy, and whole. I pray that if we need clients or customers for businesses, we find them. And if we Okay, I pray that we find customers and clients if we need them. If we need work, if we're looking for jobs, we get good jobs. If we need a place to live, we get a good place to live. I pray we have adequate money and then some. I pray we deal with whatever money we have wisely in these last days. We say strong and mighty in your word and in faith, and we don't fall apart. And we don't get scared when stuff starts happening. You've seen me sit here with the missiles outside. You hear the explosions, and I keep doing the broadcast while this is going on. So you can do it too. No harm will come to your house. It's the scripture. And I pray for us to have peace and joy, calm and rest and good sleep. And I pray I can do better videos. I pray we all understand the Bible better. I pray you illuminate us as to how these wars are going to go and when they're going to go. And I pray for the peace of Yerushalayim, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I'm out. I hope you got something out of this. I'm going to be watching. And if things break loose, I'm going to do more live streams. And if things are just so interesting, they'll go on Telegram. Okay, guys, I'm out. Thanks.